Okay, I'm gonna put the burning questions up front. Taliolol now holds the record for the shortest walk from a main city gate right to an inn room. Its time to the market board is below average. Anyway, roll the intro. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time playing through Dawntrail these past weeks. I finished the MSQ, got to work on the crafting and roulette grinds. I've been spending a lot of time doing one of those two things and exploring all the zones and getting all the aether currents. This video is my spoiler-free review of Dawntrail. There are some spoilers for Endwalker and Shadowbringer, so be warned. I started playing Final Fantasy XIV in September of last year. Most of my time was spent powering through the main scenario quests with a few breaks to grind alt jobs and play other games like Cyberpunk 2077 and Fallout New Vegas. The following is my ranking of the Final Fantasy XIV expansions. This is an average rating, taking into account the amount of fun I've had since starting the game with each era of content. I give you all this information so you know the kind of player I am and the kind of games I enjoy. In general, my favorite games are single-player, Western-style action games, RPGs, and immersive sims where story and atmosphere are conveyed through mechanics and role-playing games like Deus Ex, Fallout New Vegas, and Dark Souls. Final Fantasy XIV is the only MMO I've ever played to end game. The hardest content I've done in the game was clearing the third turn of Pandemonium Savage with minimum item level and no echo. With this in mind, here's my review of Dawntrail, and I will keep the footage I used to the city Taliolol and the first dungeon, stuff that was in the media tour a few weeks back. Final Fantasy XIV in general has a difficult time with story. I'm hard on video games from a storytelling perspective because there's a lot of power for storytelling in the medium that goes pretty much unused in the big budget space because capitalism is an all-consuming maw of death, swallowing any innovation for the sake of the constant greed and profit motive from people who can and do kill babies if it makes the shareholders happy. My question is this: does the game have the same impact if you remove all the gameplay and watch the cutscenes together like an anime? And I can easily say Final Fantasy XIV fails this test. Pretty much every Final Fantasy XIV expansion is a series of walking to an NPC and talking to them, and it occasionally makes you do a dungeon or a trial. In between watching episodes of that time I got reincarnated as the Warrior of Light so I could ERP in Limsa. So the judge for me is, how interesting is the anime, how much fun are the characters to be around, how does it use the story to make fun gameplay? Dawntrail here is not as good as Shadowbringers and definitely not as good as Endwalker, but still enjoyable. I managed to get through the entire thing without falling asleep and without the temptation to skip cutscenes. The Warrior of Light is taking a backseat role, Werewolf Lamott's best friend, mentor, and local nuclear missile that she can fire at a problem until it's solved because we have the power of reloading a quick save whenever we die during a fight and there's a camera hovering behind us. The expansion as an excuse to go through a long series of new cultures that we hadn't seen before and learn about their history through their traditions, that's all really enjoyable. Fleshing out the world that we're inhabiting is great fun. It's Final Fantasy XIV's signature slow burn. There's nothing as brutal or heart-wrenching as the Tesla Incinerator scene from Shadowbringers or the Garlean Soldier suicide from Endwalker, but the expansion still finds plenty of room for heart-wrenching moments, primarily starting in the second half of the expansion. There were multiple moments where I was truly surprised with how ballsy the game developers were to have your quest progress impact the state of the world around you. It's hard to do in MMOs since you can't lock the player into a zone for too long or break their abilities or anything like that, but the feeling that I was impacting the world had never been stronger. There's thankfully fewer useless solo duties this time around, but none of them are up to the quality of In From the Cold from Endwalker, where you get body swapped into the random Garlean Soldier. That's one of the only solo duties that I feel is truly justified, because it's a case of the game using mechanics to tell its story. The thing with the story is, I don't know what anyone was expecting from a Final Fantasy XIV story. I played through all of them recently. The story is fine, it's enjoyable popcorn shonen anime material, but as someone who doesn't watch anime, I can't find a reason to care about the story having dramatic shifts in tone and being alternately slow as molasses and feeling like you're skipping things. That sounds like a standard shonen anime to me. By the standards of narrative media, Final Fantasy XIV ranks in like C tier. Were you expecting Citizen Kane? Visually, the expansion is stunning. The 5th and 6th zones especially made me stop and stare for multiple minutes at the skylines and architecture. This is combined with Soken's soundtrack, and I don't know what they're feeding this man, but every single track kills. Some of these are going to make it into my greatest hits of FF14 playlist, and I will be very happy to AFK until Taliolol, knowing that when I come back I'll be here with this fucking banger of a big band track. The instanced content this time around is a big step up from what I played before. The dungeons and trials are universally more engaging than most of the dungeons before. It's a lot more like Mount Gold, Tower of Zot, or Dead Ends, some of my favorite dungeons from before, where mechanics just kind of fly at you and you're expected to just adjust or get fucked, loser. I ran every dungeon with a tank and DPS from my ultimate static, all on our main jobs, and we died at least once in each trial and dungeon the first time. Every time we ran into a boss fight, we were met with a fun challenge. Nothing took us longer than a few attempts once we understood the mechanics, but I'm happy with the level of difficulty. Whenever we sit down to do roulettes, or one of the DPS from our group wants a quick queue, I'm excited to jump in and play those dungeons again. It's to the point where I wish they'd replace high-level dungeons roulette with just Dawntrail dungeons, because the quality of the content between Dawntrail dungeons and Stone Vigil Hard is like playing two entirely different games. The visual update gave this game a great glow up. A lot of the old areas look a lot better with the new lighting engine. Mordona and the Asm Step especially look amazing after the update. I had to remake my green screen setup in-game. Writing Quinn doesn't know if editing Quinn will need to remake the chroma key preset we use yet. As for job reworks, Dragoon and Astrologian were two of my max level jobs in Endwalker, and both of them got hit with the rework bat. I like the Astrologian changes because all they really did was make the cards more consistent but didn't change anything about the broader healing kit. Dragoon is fun as well because, like I said, all they did was streamline things. Dragoon is supposed to be straightforward and they did fine. I think I'll still play it as my main melee job, but I play healer at high level content most of the time. For new job abilities for the ones I already play, I like the new abilities for Scholar. Giving you a Super Saiyan form to eat big mitigation checks is fun, but by far my favorite change is the addition of Baleful Impaction. It's such a fun ability to use, and it gives you an extra button to press during dungeon trash, which I just find fun. Call me crazy, but pressing buttons is fun. I've been seeing the doomsaying on Reddit on Black Mage, but honestly the biggest problem I see with Black Mage is the lower levels. They should give you Umbral Soul at level 5. That skill is absolutely necessary to play Black Mage now. Playing in any content where you don't have it makes you feel like a kneecapped Pictomancer. Speaking of Pictomancer, Viper and Pictomancer. I haven't played these myself apart from the solo duties that teach you how to play them. A few of my raiding friends have picked them up and by all accounts they're very satisfying jobs to play and they make big number go up. I didn't play enough of them to be able to give an opinion, but I'm a lot more excited to do the extremes and continue the endless crafting and gathering grind. I was going to end the video there, but I do want to add something for those of you who didn't pay attention in English class and to whom Rosebud is a cheat code from The Sims. I liked the MSQ of Dawntrail. I have played Final Fantasy XIV pretty much every day since Dawntrail's launch. I cannot give a review of Dawntrail from an outsider's perspective, but I can tell you that as somebody who enjoyed playing the game as it was at the end of Endwalker, I'm probably going to keep playing the game for the foreseeable future. Speaking of which, the script for this video took me so long that I ended up maxing my crafters in between starting it and finishing it, so I'm going to abruptly end the script with ranking Dawntrail so far in the list that I gave earlier. I'm gonna put it, here. Oh, I guess I should continue the trend and put a reference to the stand-in somewhere. M-O-O-N, that spells put housing in Maryland Mentorum.